Most experts now believe that faculty teach as they've been taught, and while the superiority of involving students is well established, the truth is 70 to 90% of all of us still use the old lecture as the primary instructional strategy. But research has taught us, however, that the amount of time that is spent listening in the classroom is negatively related to a change in critical thinking skills and positively related to memorization skills. Consider these statistics. Students retain 70% of the information taught in the first 10 minutes of a lecture, but only 20% in the last 10. And in a Myers and Jones article written in 1993, 4 months after taking an introductory course, students knew only about 8% more than students who'd never taken the class. Man, that hurts. Faculty tell me all the time, Debbie, I don't really have time to engage in a lot of active learning strategies. I have so much content to deliver. The reality, however, is that if students aren't listening to our content, then they're not understanding or retaining the content. And most studies indicate that students retain on average 20% or less of material taught in the college classroom. You may have seen this chart before. Generally, after 2 weeks, students remember 10 to 20% of what they read or hear. 10 to 20%. But with active strategies, people retain 70 to 90% if they participated in a discussion in the class, or they've done a presentation, or if they've done the real thing in the classroom with whatever subject you're working with. I think Confucius got it right when he said, I hear and I forget. I see and I remember. I do and I understand. Okay, so in the next minute and a half, what is active learning? Quite simply, it's just involving students directly in the learning process. That means instead of only receiving information verbally and visually, they receive it and participate and doing. Listen, I'm not telling you not to lecture. We all are going to lecture in our classes, but you also need to involve students in talking and listening to each other, or writing, reading, and reflecting individually as part of a regular classroom day. Here's a couple of ways to incorporate active learning in the classroom. Find ways for students to engage in dialogue with people other than fellow classmates, maybe on the web, maybe through email, maybe to bring in guest speakers, other students. Perhaps you're doing oral histories in your neighborhood. You can find other ways for students to actually do directly or vicariously with case studies, simulations, or role plays that which they need to learn to do. You could try a feedback lecture. That consists of 2 mini lectures separated by a small group study session built around a study guide or a case study. That's my personal favorite in my law class. Or you could use peer teaching, where students explain to each other how they did something, for example, in solving a problem. Math classes find this particularly effective. Socrates was probably right. He taught by asking. Rather than teaching by telling, you could start the topic each day by asking students a question which leads to what you want to teach. You might say, what methods are used to manipulate the economy? Think of as many as you can. Who would have supported Cromwell back then? Who would not, and why? Okay, I'm here to admit there's no magic bullets. Some of your students will never be willing to abandon their passive roles in the classroom. But between those who are self-motivated and those who choose to sink in the class, there is a very large group of people who, with some facilitation from you and some active learning strategies, will markedly improve their performance. It will make a difference. So, now it's time for you to get active. Become a guest speaker in our Best Practice series. Give me a call. We'd love to hear your ideas and put you online and let everyone hear them as well. You can apply for an instructional enhancement grant. Call the Center for Teaching and Learning and get up to $300 a semester to bring in any materials you need for active learning strategies. Or let us know what practice has worked best for you. Email it to me and we'll include it in our upcoming Best Practices for New Faculty at GPC booklet. The top 5 books receive a free book on teaching. If you want to learn more, guess what? Next week we've got a new series hitting the campuses led by Margaret Walker called You're Right, There Is Already Too Much to Cover. You can join this old lunch hour session and take away some simple classroom applications of that old saying that less is more. Down below you'll see the dates and the locations for all of the workshops that we've got. We're also adding one on Rockdale for you Rockdale folks, so you'll hear more about that soon. Thanks so much for listening, and great teaching.